question that I get a lot, which is a valid question, is so why do you feel it necessary to make the distinction between religion and superstition? And this is normally accompanied with the caveat that once people leave religion, won't they leave superstition as well? Well, I have a few thoughts on that. So before I dive in, make sure you like the video. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. That way you're always getting notified when we drop new content. And of course, if you're interested in supporting content like this and you want to become a part of our growing community, consider joining our Patreon by clicking the link in the description. So when individuals move away from organized religion, but still hold on to superstitious beliefs, they often transition into a space where they identify as spiritual but not religious. This identity allows for a broader exploration of beliefs and practices outside traditional religious structures. However, it also tends to lead to the embrace of various superstitions that fulfill that human need for shortcuts to understanding and control over life's uncertainties. Now, before I jump into the meat of what I really want to talk about today, I want to highlight the most disingenuous of the spiritual but not religious crew. The first one, which I consider the absolute most disingenuous, are the ones who say, I don't have a religion, I have a relationship," right? Those people, the people who make that type of claim, are people whose entire relationship is based on a religious presupposition. So in that moment, most times they're talking about a relationship with Jesus, which again, you don't get Jesus just by meditating in nature one day. This comes, through the bathwater of a religious system, So basically what those people are saying, I'm going to try to be as honest as I can here. What those people are saying is, I still want to be superstitious. I just don't want to be organized with it, or even worse, I still want to be superstitious. I still want to be organized, but I somehow want to delineate myself and make it seem like I'm somehow different than the other ones. And this is a common game that we see ran in the church community. We saw Kirk Franklin do this for years. And of course, he did a whole album entitled Losing My Religion, where the whole album was about promoting his religion, you know. Just recently, Ty Tribbett, said, "Hey, church is whack," while still pastoring a church, and albeit his church is no longer in a building, but many black churches, if they were smart, shifted from the building focus during COVID. Just pay attention to all the ones that are growing. So again, it's just that same gambit. And then of course the spiritual but not religious is still kind of the same thing. It's like I still hold on to these same superstitions and the superstitious way of approaching life and validating life. But I'm no longer organized around that. So I'm no longer doing anything meaningful with my belief, which I kind of find, I don't necessarily see that as a good sign or as a sign of us moving in the right direction. No, if you do believe in something, you possibly should be organized around it. You should be, or at least doing something meaningful to engage those beliefs. So those I do kind of consider disingenuous and just a way to kind of hold on. But I'd also like to call out there this idea of, is it really just a problem that people believe in religious superstitions, or is superstition the problem itself? And of course, if you've been watching my videos for any amount of time, you know that what I believe is that superstition is the problem itself. So I kind of want to highlight 10 superstitions that people tend to accept even after they've left religion or organized religion. So I've already dealt with the most obvious ones. I want to give you 10 more, and some of these will be obvious to you. Some of these won't be. I would love to hear which ones you said, okay, I did not think about that, and which ones you were like, oh yeah, that immediately hit my mind. And so while this video is not a deep dive, I do want to highlight 10 superstitious beliefs and practices that are still just as pervasive as religion. Much of this happens because spirituality has not been well defined. And this enables even the most sincere of skeptics to successfully separate the concept from the supernatural while not severing it from the superstitious. So we're going to start with astrology and horoscopes, right? This is the belief that celestial bodies influence our personalities, our destinies, and daily lives, our relationships, who we should marry. I'm a Taurus. My wife is a Leo. Like, we know this. Our kids know their horoscopes. Now, in our household, we don't vest anything in it. We actually find it kind of neat just to craft narratives and stuff like that. I am a fiction writer, so I love narratives. But there are people who sincerely base major decisions on horoscopes and on astrology, based who they marry on that, you know, where they're going to work on that, where they're going to move to, when they're going to move, when they're going to make a decision. So that this is a common superstition. So there are many people who leave religion. So we say, okay, if we just, you know, if everybody stops going to church, then our problem is solved. And I'm like, I don't think you understand the problem. Again, as I've said in a video before, it's not religion that made us superstitious. We created religion. To believe that religion made us superstitious would be to believe that something else gave us religion. But no, religion is a human invention. And so it is sick with the same sicknesses that all of the other human inventions are, you know. And so even though, yes, we talk about all of the sick things that happen in church, and I'm like, but yeah, we can't find any other institutions that those same sick things aren't happening in, because we are the common denominator. This isn't a religion problem. This isn't a politics problem. This isn't a national problem. This isn't an entertainment problem. This, beloved, is a people problem. All right. So, astrology and horoscope. Sorry for that little rabbit trail. I said this wasn't going to be a deep dive. But then also, what's another one that people, after they leave religion, after they leave church, or even while they're still in church, I know quite a few who are this, but even when they separate from church, many of them say, nope, I don't believe there is a God. I have no reason to believe there's a God, you know, rationality, blah, blah, blah. But no, I still believe that psychics, you know, and mediums and stuff. And just mind you, I am not saying that you cannot hold on to the idea that someone someday may demonstrate evidence of this, but to believe that you already have that evidence, you know, we'd probably just be interested in you sharing that with the rest of the world, because as of now, without that evidence being widely known, that just seems like Fugazi, right? So psychics and mediums, people turn to psychics and mediums to communicate with the deceased or gain insight into the future. And so the same superstition that led people to follow prophets in churches, you know, got people going to palm readers, you know, and psychics and mediums. And so and you got to wonder which one came first, the prophet or the psychic, right? You know, this thing of clairvoyance. And again, I'm not ruling out the possibility, but in most cases, we've attached ourselves to these things without any evidence. And so watch this. That means even if this thing could be possible, your attachment to it is still superstitious if you have no evidence that it's possible. Which means if you have no evidence that it's possible, but you're still attached to it, treating it like it is a possibility, as opposed to trying to research its possibility, then yes, you're being superstitious, because the whole superstitious approach is, I don't need to do the research. I'm just going to believe that it is that way. I'm going to believe that if I step on a crack, it'll break my mother's back, and if I step on the crack and it didn't break my mother's back, I'm just going to thank my lucky stars that I was the exception that day. All right? So, okay. All right. So, psychics and medium, but I'm not done. That was just number two. Again, not a deep dive here. Just want to share some things for so that we understand how pervasive superstition is. I mean, I could talk about Santa Claus. This is superstition. I could talk about our fascination with literal fiction, right? And how there are several segments of us that take that literal fiction a little way too far. Like there's like yeesh, like yikes, like whoa. Because we have a tendency to attach to these things. Even in the drama world, in the world of acting, there are people who we kind of call classicists, where they are the type of people that when it comes to plays and productions, they do not want to see those characters changed in any kind of way. And that's for Broadway and local stage plays and things of that nature. But we also saw fans behave in the exact same way when it came to characters like the Little Mermaid. Those attachments are superstitious. When you have a fictional character that you say, this fictional character who was a mermaid had white skin when I saw her and red hair, now you can only present her this way to me. Like, we've attached way too much importance to the details of a fictional character. So I warn people that this superstitious thing, it isn't something that we got from church. It isn't something that we got from religion. It is something that we have been historically for a very long time in our period, in our evolutionary process. And at one point, it was likely necessary even. And for the longest time, it has been tolerable. But we are now kind of coming into a place in our collective consciousness and collective rationale where we can look back over our own behavior and say, "Ooh, we shouldn't have done that. Holy crap! I think we've been on the slow bus a little bit longer than we were supposed to. I think we've like already been past this and we're just kind of stuck here. Now that's a whole nother conversation that I'm willing to have. But again, this is not supposed to be a deep dive. So the next one is, this one might be an ouchie for some of you. Sage smudging. Right? Right? Now again, I'm not saying that you cannot appreciate the ritual. Actually, I'm not saying that you can't do anything. If anything, I'm saying if you're doing these things with supernatural, yeah, that was weird. I'm saying if you're doing these things with supernatural attachments, then yes, they are superstitious. If you're doing these things expecting things to happen, without evidence, that these things are gonna happen or that have ever happened, then yeah, this is superstitious. When you're expecting something that has no correlation and no causation to correlate and causate, and cause, then yes, this is superstition. So yes, if you think that, sage smudging or sage burning is going to clear demons, hello, or clear spirits or clear negative energies out of your house. And again, I'm not saying that it's not possible. I am saying that it's not plausible. And for you to believe that it's possible is not the problem, right? For you to attach yourself to a behavior that says it's um, possible without going through the scientific method to demonstrate that it is possible, then yeah, that's superstitious. And I think that might be a safe way to diagnose whether this belief system I have is superstitious or not. did I go through the scientific method to get to this belief system? If I to get to this idea, to attach to this idea, if I didn't go through the scientific method to attach to this idea, but I am attached to it, then my attachment to that idea is superstitious, because ultimately I kind of define superstitious as these shortcuts that we take in learning. All right, so I got to keep going on. Here's another one that might hit some of you a little out of left field. Um, what we see from a lot of people who leave religion, but are still attached to superstition, you might hear some talk about the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and how we have to balance these two energies out, and so again, I think one of the things that always alerts me to when we're dealing with something that's superstitious is when the words we're using are words that we have not agreed on definite terms to. Like, what does this actually mean? Like for me, like I think Christians made it so easy for me to realize that, and I say easy, it still took me like almost 3 decades, but made it so easy for me to realize that, oh, this is a superstitious belief, because even the word God is generic. It's like you just made this like the biggest curtain ever. It's like, oh, it's just God. But no, when you start hearing people use terms that we really don't have an agreed definite, like, what does that even mean? So like if you ask somebody, you go, hey, do you believe in God? And in your mind, you're thinking the Christian God. And even then, it's just like, which Christian God? The Baptist Christian God, the Protestant Christian God first, or the Catholic Christian God, or Lutheran Christian God, or the Nazarene Christian God, the Episcopalian Christian God? Is this the congregational Christian God, or is this the ecclesiastical Christian God? Is this the Methodist Christian God? And if it is it the United Methodist Christian God, or is it the African Methodist Episcopal Christian God? So you got a bunch of those, but then even that, is it the Christian God, or is it the Jewish God? And which Jewish God is it? And so it literally like turtles all the way down. And so when people start using words like divine, like, okay, but what do you mean? Now, as a person who loves literature, I am all for redeeming words. I believe all words are useful. And many words that still have supernatural and superstitious attachments, for the most part, we don't use them that way anymore. And I make this argument in many cases. The word spirit is a word that, yes, while we still use it for woo-woo stuff, we also use this word describing very real psychosocial phenomena, such as team spirit or spirit week, group spirit, and all of those, good things. Be of good spirits, like. And we understand every time we use those words, in either of those cases, are we using those words to invoke some supernatural phenomena? In all of those cases, we are using those words as an abstraction of understanding mental states, or socio-cognitive states, which basically mean like mental states of the group. Um, and I think that word, I think spirit and spirituality is redeemable in that case. In the same way, faith. I often don't use faith in the same way that theists or superstitious people do, or even some atheists do, for that matter, because we've already redeemed that word in our language base. So when I say, I have faith in my wife, I am not invoking any sense of supernaturalism or superstitiousness in that belief. What I am saying is the same thing I'm saying that I'd be saying if I have faith that if I sit in this chair, it's gonna hold me up. That means I have an understanding based in a reasonable interaction and engagement with the world around me. This is not something I'm having to believe. Otherwise, I just say I believe the chair is gonna hold me up. But I have no need to believe. I have faith in that the chair is gonna hold me up, in the same way that I have faith that when I get in an airplane, that it's gonna get me to my destination. I cannot say that I know for a fact that it's going to get me to my destination in the same way I can't say that I know for a fact the chair is going to hold me up, because there are many different variables that can go into play. It can cause that, but I can say I have faith, which means based off of my understanding of the details, that yes, this should operate accordingly. So I'm all fine for redeeming words, but when we start using words for like divine, I struggle with what does that even mean. And then even going as far as divine masculine, so which means you have found a great definition of masculine, and I struggle with that as well. And then we're going to do it again with divine feminine. For stuff like that, I'd first kind of have to see an example of it in nature. What exactly is a divine woman and a divine man? Now, again, these are terms, and this is stuff that I'll be talking about in my book, The Case for Religion. I am all for redeeming these terms and giving them meaning. For example, as a sociologist, when I look at the word divine based off of its usage historically, in an attachment with some type of deity, and my understanding of deities being the personification of our own ideals, then when I think of divine, I think of our own idealized version of a thing. But see, then even when I think of masculine, feminine, I'm already thinking about our own idealized version of a thing. And so even there, this is where you have the problem at. Because this is why you can't have just one religion. Because if religion, especially if those religions are going to be based off of gods who are basically the personification of our ideals, the more people you have, the more different ideals you're gonna have. The more people you have, the more different opinions you're gonna have about what right is or what wrong is, or what we want and what we don't want, what we need and what we don't need, what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And so then all of a sudden you start getting all of these different branches, all right? Because these things are personification of ideals. And so this is problematic for me, because then typically in these cults, everybody and I didn't mean to use the word cults, but I did mean it, right? So in the cults that use this type of language, it's just like the Bible. You can make it mean whatever you want it to mean. And you do find this language being used quite a lot, among a lot of modern cults. And so, the next one, because we got to keep on rolling. Soulmates and twin flames. Man. Now, as a former pastor, I can be the first one to tell you that soulmates is not a belief that comes from Christianity. So again, this is a prime example of how our religions didn't give us superstition. We gave our superstitions. Using our superstitious inclination, we infected our religions with our superstition. And I speak, of course, I'm speaking from I gotta say it. I was going to say, unfortunately, I mean, it is the case. I don't know how I could attach fortune to it, but it is the case. I'm going to be speaking from a Western perspective, and so from a Western Christian perspective, there's no such thing as a soulmate in Scripture. Yet most Christians believe in a soulmate of some sort or kind. And now you have the idea of twin flames, which I guess is like super soulmates. Maybe it's like Super Saiyan. I don't know. But this is, again, I'm not trying to ruin anybody's love story, but we have seen these beliefs. And again, if the way you arrive to the conclusion of this belief, was not through, the scientific method, was not through some peer review, then you already know that you didn't do the work to believe it. So please don't get upset with me and say it's not superstitious, unless you can be like, nope, I have the evidence here. And then, man, I'm going to enjoy that story, and so in that case, you'd probably be sending me a link as opposed to writing a paragraph in the comments. Yikes, right? All right, so let's keep going. So soulmates and twin flames is the belief in predestined, so predestination there. Profound connection with certain individuals that are meant to enhance spiritual growth and understanding. And I think that's the thing that always that I don't think a lot of people who believe in soulmates and twin flames often think about, is that this is an attachment to you believing in predestination. So how do you how how do you defend that? Okay, so which no, I'm gonna take that back. Predestination, I am not gonna put in the world of woo. All right, I won't do that. I won't do that. But I will say, to attach yourself to that or try to impose anybody else on that, at that moment, that would be in the world of woo. Yeah, yeah, yep. I think that's safe. All right, here's the next one. This is another one that I think is, whew, okay, take a deep breath. Let's all whoosah together, because this is gonna hurt. Chakras and energy work. Now again, I've made this caveat several times in this video. I shouldn't have to repeat it right now. What I love about my subscribers is that you all are literally absolutely intelligent. So, you know, I don't have to do all of these caveats for you, but I do it for other people who come on and may not know, may not be familiar, and may still be learning. And I want to make it very clear that I am not trying to make any absolute statements here, but I do want to stress that if you attach yourself to something and you didn't go through the proper process to be able to make that attachment, then I'm going to consider that superstitious. And so a lot of the things that we do with chakras and energy, now the jury may still be out, but that's what it needs to be. The jury is still out, not we out here selling stuff. And it's free market. I don't want to, I don't want to knock anybody's hustle, but that does concern me. And so you do see a lot of people who detach from religion still find different ways to attach to different superstitious beliefs. And this is, the chakra things and the energy work is focusing on aligning and healing chakras, energy centers in the body, for physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. And again, I am not in any way suggesting that you cannot interact with these things. I think it is, there's a lot of value with interacting with things culturally and ritually and just experientially, having that type of experience and experimenting with things and exploring different ideologies. The thing that I ask us to be careful about is just forming those attachments. Have those experiences and measure those experiences for what they are, not for what people tell you they are. And appreciate those cultures. We can do that without disrespecting any cultures. In many ways, that there are many atheists to this day who still attend Christmas celebrations, Easter celebrations, and all types of celebrations out of respect for that Western Christian culture that they've been a part of, out of respect for those traditions, because we're capable of doing that. The next one, kind of in the same vein. So again, don't hurt me if this is your preferred hustle, but crystals and gemstones. Oh yeah, and I ain't talking about the Righteous Gemstones, which was an excellent show. But this is typically using crystals for healing, protection, or attracting certain energies. Each type of crystal is believed to have specific properties and benefits. And I think that's where you jump the shark for me. Honestly, if you just kept it in the realm of, hey, this is really pretty, and typically when people look at pretty things, it makes them feel better. I could be like, oh yeah, I think there's some pretty solid science we can find to back that up. But once we go through, like, no, this crystal like has a green speck in it, and that green speck gives you this, and it's just like, oh, okay, I think this was my issue with Christianity. I'm like, I think you've gone too far. But no, we do make these superstitious attachments, and again, not saying you don't have to engage. I'm simply highlighting, the top 10 superstitious things that are most common, found among people even after they've disavowed religion. The next one, tarot cards and divination. Yes, there are a lot of people who are no longer religious, who absolutely, do tarot cards and practice all type of divination stuff, even things that you probably wouldn't consider, your normal divination stuff, and again, and everybody don't do these things with a superstitious attachment. I mean, maybe with the tarot cards they do, but maybe not. I don't know. I've never been a tarot card guy. I don't know. But like we do knock on wood. You say something the same time as somebody else knock on wood. Obviously, this is superstitious. Nothing is gonna happen. Nobody owes you a Coke. St. Patrick's Day is coming up. People are gonna be pinching people. We don't have an actual superstitious attachment to these things, even though they are superstitious practices. And so I think that sometimes is what makes people uncomfortable. When I say that superstition may be the real problem, it's because superstition is so common among us that we think of those little harmless superstitions. And I'm like, well, superstitions are only harmless if you don't believe them. And so when I'm talking about superstitions in my videos, I am 100% talking about the people who believe that what they're doing is evidentiarily true and ultimately decide to live their life by it. Now, I know most people are like, well, yeah, if they want to live their lives that way, that's great. And I'm like, sure, that absolutely sounds great. I've always thought that until you see what happens. And me, I was one of those people. So I'm speaking as the person that I was more than a decade ago. Right now, I'm just like, oh, I wish somebody would have done a better job of normalizing critical thinking. That should have been what public school was for. Public school's number one priority should have been normalizing critical thinking. But I can say, as a person who went to school up and down the black belt, dysfunctional family, a lot of schools, 4 different high schools, that was not a priority. Critical thinking was not a priority. All right, so tarot cards and divination. Using tarot cards or other divination tools to gain insight into the past, present, or future is a form of guidance for personal decisions or understanding life's mysteries. And here's another one. This is 9. This one is gonna, okay. This is a hard one because this one is very common, very common. And I don't hear very many people, outside of the scientific community calling this superstition. But are you ready? The law of attraction and manifestation. I mean, it uses the word the law, so I guess it can't be superstition, but it is. It's nice superstition, but it is definitely superstition. The belief that positive or negative thoughts bring positive or negative experience or outcomes into a person's life. This concept encourages the power of mindset and visualization. Now, please do not misunderstand me. I am not saying that positive thinking is not helpful. I am not saying that at all. But I am saying that there are situations that no matter how positively you think about the situation, that's not really going to change it. Because it's really not positive thinking that you need, it's rational thinking that you need. People often ask me, Darante, are you a, pessimist or an optimist? And I often tell people that both of those are extremes. I am a realist. I have no reason not to look at life as it is and to adjust to that accordingly. So in the same way, the law of attraction and manifestation, while positive, is positively misguided. And in many cases, I've seen it, and I won't say used because I don't want to attach intent behind the people who who propagate it, but I can't find a better word for it right now, so we're just gonna have to bear with it. But I've seen it used in a way that actually keeps people in poverty, because they're so busy positive thinking that it's really hard to stay rational. And there's really nothing in nature that suggests that you have to be, positive all the time. This is a misnomer. And manifestation is right, right there. And then this one, I debated about putting this on the list, but I'll kind of explain it. You ready? Shadow work. Ooh, right. Okay, let me explain. All right, so shadow work is the practice of exploring and integrating the darker, unconscious aspects of oneself. Now, while it can lead to profound personal growth, it is sometimes approached in a superficial, shallow, or spooky manner without the depth of psychological work necessary for true understanding and authentic transformation. And so, what often happens is this information, these words, these buzzwords, starts getting propagated among very superstitious communities, and then it gets turned into something that is great as a theory of psychology, and actually has some solid fundamentals into something that is completely unrecognizable, because we like things that sound like shortcuts. And so, yes, even if we were to get everybody to stop going to church, which is not necessarily what I'm an advocate for, even if we were to get everybody to, stop being religious, which is not necessarily what I'm an advocate for, I'm indifferent to it, we'd likely still be superstitious. Because superstitious is a problem that we won't change in our churches. It's not a problem that we're likely to change in our religions. Superstition is a problem that we're going to have to challenge in our homes. It's a problem we're going to have to challenge in our educational systems. And it's a problem we're going to have to challenge in our political institutions. And then our churches and our religions should become a reflection of that. Because ultimately, all of our institutions are reflections of who we are as people, wherever our institutions may be. Those institutions are reflections of the people. And when the people change, the institutions change. So I'd much rather, or I don't want to say much rather, but I think it would be better to deal with superstition. And then if our churches were not places that promoted superstition, but were just places that gathered together to help people and learn together and grow together and build community based off of, the real world and a rational understanding of it, then why would we be mad about that? And then if religion was something that no longer promoted superstitious ideals and genocidal ideals, but instead were just institutions that studied the history of culture and ritual and its implication on society, then I can't see how that would be problematic, not compared to much of the other things we have. We do live in a generation where we have, the Real Housewives sagas and the Kardashians and things of that nature. So, there are worse things, but I did want to just share that with you. I hope you all were able to get something out from it. Thank you for joining. Again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join Patreon. Thank you.